Hello and happy Monday morning, at least for me. I don't know what day you're watching this, but I wanted to go over solving systems by elimination. So this is the last way of solving systems of equations that we're going to talk about. And so I just wanted to show you a few examples of how you do this process. Okay, so I'm actually going to start with this one here in the middle. And the way that we're going to solve a system by elimination, the elimination part means that we're going to try to eliminate one of the variables. Okay, and the way that we do that is we're going to add these two equations together. And when we add them together, we want one of the variables to kind of zero out and disappear. So in order to do that, we have to sometimes manipulate one of the equations. Okay, so on here, we have negative 8x minus 5y equals negative 1, or negative 8x minus y equals negative 45. So there's two different variables. So we have an x and a y. We can get rid of either one. Okay, so in order to get rid of the x, the easiest thing to do would be to multiply one of these equations by negative 1, because then I'd have a positive 8x and a negative 8x, and when I add those together, they would equal 0. If I wanted to get rid of the y's, then the easiest way to do that would be to multiply this equation, this bottom equation, by negative 5. So if I multiplied the equation by negative 5, I would have a negative 5y and a positive 5y. So when I added the two equations together, I would get that one of them equals 0. Well, I get that the y's would equal 0 and cancel out. Okay, so the way that this is going to work, or at least the way I'm going to do it, is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the x's. Okay, so I'm going to multiply, and it doesn't matter which equation you multiply. You could actually multiply both of them if you wanted. But I'm going to go ahead and multiply this bottom equation by negative 1. Okay, which means I'm going to multiply and distribute that negative 1 all the way across the equation. Okay, so that's going to give me 8x, positive 8x, and it's going to give me a positive y, and it's going to give me a positive 45. Okay, so I just multiply the whole thing by negative 1. Now, if I bring down this equation, I'm just going to move it down here so it's easier to work with. Okay, so I have my negative 8x minus 5, whoa, that's a bad 5, y equals negative 1. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these two equations together, and one of my variables will drop out, because when I add 8x plus negative 8x, that's going to equal 0. So then 1y plus negative 5y is going to give me negative 4y. And then 45 plus negative 1 is going to give me 44. Okay, now I just have this one little equation to finish solving to see what my y equals. Okay, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 4. Because it's multiplying, I have to always do the opposite. So that's going to be a 1. So my y equals 44 divided by negative 4, which is negative 11. So that's my y. But then remember, we have to still find the other half, which is the x. Okay, and so just like with substitution, you just substitute this negative 11 back up into one of these equations. Okay, and then it doesn't matter which one. So I'll go ahead and use this one. Well, I'll use this one. Okay, so that's what I'm going to put it into. So I have a negative 8x minus a negative 11 equals, make sure I don't mix up which one I'm using here, equals negative 45. Okay, so minus a negative becomes a plus. So I'm just going to make that a plus right there. So negative 8x plus 11. So to solve this, I have to subtract 11 on both sides. So then I have negative 8x equals negative 45 minus 11 is negative 56. And then I have to do the opposite of multiply, which is to divide both sides by -8. And that's going to give me, this is 1, so 1x equals -56 divided by -8 is 7. Woo. So that's what my x equals. So my ordered pair would be 7 and -11. Okay, so it's kind of a long process, but it's not too bad once you get the hang of it. All right, so let's move over to this little story problem here. So this one says the sum of two numbers is 18, the sum of the greater number and twice the smaller number is 25. Find the numbers. Okay, so taking this first part right here, so the sum of two numbers is 18. So is always means equals. Sum means we're adding some stuff together. Okay, and it doesn't tell us what the numbers are. So those are where your variables will be. So we have two different numbers. So I'm going to have my first number will be x. If I add that to my second number, then that's going to equal 18. So whatever those two numbers are, they add up to be 18. Okay, so that's what that first sentence means. So then the second part says the sum of the greater number and twice the smaller number is 25. Okay, so again, we're adding two things together. Okay, that's the sum. Twice means two times. So we're doing 2 times something. And then the is means equals. Okay, so whatever we're doing here, we know that it's going to equal 25. Okay, and then we're going to add the bigger number and 2 times the smaller number. Now up here, we don't really know which one is the bigger or the smaller, so we can just say, so I'm going to just say x is my bigger number. So if my x is my bigger number, that means I'm going to have an x plus and twice the smaller, so that's 2 times the smaller number. Okay, so that's how you set up your equation. So then you just have to solve it, and I'm going to go ahead and solve it using elimination like we just did right here. Okay, so on this one, we could again eliminate the x's if we just multiply one of the equations by -1. Just to be different, I'm going to go ahead and eliminate my y's. So the easiest way to eliminate my y's, if I have a positive 2y here, I want to have a negative 2y here. Okay, so I'm going to multiply this whole thing by -2. So I'm going to multiply it all the way across there. So that's going to give me -2x minus 2y equals -36. Okay, and don't forget to multiply this last number. So a lot of times people forget that, and that will throw everything off. Okay, so if we add these together, so we have 1x plus -2x is -1x. And then 25 plus -36 is -11. Then if we divide both sides by -1, so that means that x equals -11 divided by -1 is 11. Okay, so then we have to find our y now. So I'm going to substitute this back up into this original equation here. And again, you could use either equation. This one looks a little easier to me, so I'm going to go ahead and use that one. Okay, so my x is 11. So I'm going to have 11 plus y equals 18. So to solve for y, I just have to subtract 11 on both sides. So 11 minus 11 is 0. So my y equals 18 minus 11 is 7. So that's going to be 11 and 7. So ironically, really close to that answer. I didn't even do that on purpose. Okay, so that's how that one works. Now over here, I did this one because some of you will see this on your quiz. And I don't really like this problem because I feel like whoever made the quiz is trying to trick you. And I don't really like problems that are trying to trick you. So I thought I would show you this one. Okay, and so the reason why this one is a little bit trickier is because if you look at this problem right here, so trying to make you think that, and I don't know, maybe it's a typo. Maybe I shouldn't say they're trying to trick you, but it makes it look like this is supposed to be a y here. But no, this is an x. Okay, and so you actually don't even need to use elimination because you already have it, one of the variables eliminated here in this equation because there's no y. And so because of that, like I said, and maybe it's a typo, but we're going to go ahead and solve it as it is written in the quiz. So to solve this, all we really need to do here is solve this for x, and then we're just going to substitute that x into this other equation. So negative 4x minus 2x, we just sort of simplify that to negative 6x, and that equals negative 22. And then we're going to divide by negative 6 on both sides. Okay, so that means that x equals, and we're going to simplify this, so negative over negative makes it a positive. To simplify this fraction, it would be, you could divide 2 out of both parts, so it's 11 over 3. Okay, or if you wanted to just pull out a calculator, then you could just put in 22 divided by 6, and you'd get 3.6 repeating, which as a fraction would be 3 2/3. Okay, so I'll accept it any way you write it, it's fine. Okay, so we're going to go with, I'm leaving it as a fraction just because I personally like fractions. I find them easier to work with than decimals. But do what you want. Calculators are your friend. Go ahead and use a calculator. Okay, so then I'm just going to have to take this and substitute it right into this other equation for that x right there. Okay, so this is going to be 2 times x. Oh, just kidding. Let me actually put my number in there. Okay, so we're substituting this 11/3 in for x. So 2 times 11/3, because that's what x equals, then plus 2y equals 2. Okay, so we're going to multiply these two together. Okay, and like I said, if you want to use a calculator, that's totally fine. So this is 2 times 11 on the top, so that's 22 over 3, and then plus 2y equals 2. So then we'd have to subtract 22/3 on both sides, and subtract 22/3 on both sides. So this would be 0. So I'd have 2y equals, maybe I'll go ahead and pull up my calculator, since I'm pretty sure that's how most of you would want to do it. So 22/3 divided by 3, so that's 7.3 repeating. Okay, and so I have to subtract that number from 2. So I'm going to say 2 minus 7.33333333. Okay, so then I get that number. So I'm going to do negative 5.3 repeating forever. Or I could just do the one, the line over it. Then I'm going to have to divide by 2. So back to my calculator. I just have to take that number and divide it by 2. And that equals, okay, so it's negative 2.6 repeating. So that's going to be y equals, make sure I don't lie, negative 2.6 repeating, okay, which would also be negative 2 2/3. So you could also do it that way, but okay. So that's how you do those problems. If you do have any questions, please always feel free to ask any question you would want to ask. And if you email me and tell me you watched this video, you can always get extra credits. All right, talk to you later.